Hello and welcome to today's Daily News Simplified, the what, why, and how of the newspaper analysis from the civil service examinations perspective. So today we are going to discuss the Hindu Delhi edition dated 20th February 2023. The important topics which are to be discussed have been displayed on your screen and a timestamping of the same has been provided in the description box below. So this is our first topic which we are going to discuss. This topic has appeared at page number 14 in today's The Hindu Daily edition. The topic reads India plans to export the solar power. So as we all know that in recent times India's focus towards energy generation has shifted to the renewable sector because of the obvious rising pressure on the fossil based energy generation. Further, India has several international commitments also, and India believes in sustainable development. The principles of sustainable development say that we must meet our present demands, but we cannot compromise on the demands and the rights of the future generation. So that is why, in this very regard, obviously we need to meet our power demand of today's time, but we cannot compromise on the future rights of the generation. So that is why the middle path is that we will generate the power, but the means to generate this power will change. And that is why we will shift from fossil to non fossil based power generation. And when it comes to the renewable sector or the non fossil based power generation, the solar energy is the one which wins the race as far as India is concerned. The immediate context of this very news article is that recently our Minister of New and Renewable Energy has said that by 2026, Indian industry will be able to manufacture every year the solar modules that generate 100 gigawatts of power and help the country to be the net exporter of the solar power. So that is why in today's session we will not be dealing with the solar energy as a whole topic because this is very general topic, and now and then in DNS also as well as in notes also we have adequate material on solar power. But now because today's this particular news talks about the solar modules, so hence we will discuss about this very aspect of the solar power generation. And as most of you must be knowing that India has the target of installing 500 gigawatts of electricity capacity from non-fossil sources by 2030. Now this information is very important. 500 gigawatt non-fossil sources by 2030. Such type of facts are very relevant when it comes to the prelims examination. Okay, so now we will analyze this topic in detail. So first of all, we shall look at the solar estimated state-wise potential and cumulative installed capacity. Now there is one important aspect. Whenever we have to talk about geography, we must talk or we must analyze various regions. Because when we analyze various strengths and merits of different regions, only then we can come up with the idea for the regional development or the overall development of India. For example, here we are talking about the solar energy. So if we have to look for the potential, then we cannot deploy the solar plant at any place at any time we want. No, there should be regional studies because there are certain regions which have higher potential and then there are other regions which have lower potential. And therefore, the regions which have lower potential solar energy, we can go for the alternate sources of renewable energy, for example, wind, hydro, biomass, etc. So this is the basic idea of the regional studies. If you see this particular map, you can see that there are certain states, for example, Rajasthan, which have very high potential. Similarly, other states like Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Jammu and Kashmir, etc., also have higher potential. Now, if you see this particular chart, obviously you need not to remember all the numerical figures of all the states, but yes, this solar potential numerical figure can give us an idea that which are those states where there lies a higher solar potential. For example, Rajasthan has the solar potential of 142 units. Then we also have the state of Jammu and Kashmir whereby the figure is 111. After Rajasthan and Jammu Kashmir, states like Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Himachal Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, Gujarat, and Uttar Pradesh also have higher potential. But yes, states of Rajasthan and Jammu and Kashmir, that is this particular region, because now it has been divided. So this particular region have the most potential for the development of solar energy. So these regions are relatively more important. As far as the whole India is concerned, about 5,000 trillion kilowatt hour per year energy is incident over India's land, and with most of the parts are receiving 4 to 7 kilowatt hours per square kilometer per day. As far as the exact targets are concerned, by 2022, India was to install 175 gigawatts of renewable energy from all the sources like solar, wind, biomass, and small hydropower. But till 2022, it has installed only 122 gigawatts. That means we are having a deficit. We are falling back of our own targets. As far as the specific target for solar energy is concerned, by 2022, India was to develop 100 gigawatts of solar energy. But till now, we have developed just 62 gigawatts. So, in this regard, coming back to the today's news article, we shall discuss some of the common issues in the solar PV modules, that is, photovoltaic modules. And these are one of the major issues which are hindering the development of the solar energy in India. So first and the foremost issue is the cost of the solar modules. And the higher cost of solar modules increases the overall cost of production of the solar energy, and obviously this cost gets transferred to the end customers. However, in recent times, there have been a decrease in the overall cost of solar modules, and that is why the accessibility to the solar power has increased. Second important issue which India specifically faces is the reduced supplies of these cells or panels. Now we were dependent on China for these regular supplies, but recently we have increased our customs duty in order to support and make the Indian manufacturing industries more competitive in this sector. So what has happened is that till now we have not developed that capability on that very scale as per which we can meet our regular demands. But because of the increase in custom duties, the supplies from China has decreased. So that is why this reduced supplies again is affecting the cost of solar modules as well as its proper diversification across India. The third issue is the degradation of the PV modules in hot climates. Now, this is also one of the major issues that, as compared to the cooler climates, in hot climates, PV modules get degraded very easily. That was one of the most important reasons that the region of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh has higher potential for the development of solar energy because these regions have higher solar irradiance and also have cooler climate. So both the conditions are satisfied in this particular region. Further, because of excessive transportation and during installation phases, there are cracks which regularly get appear on these modules, and these cracks obviously hamper the efficiency of these modules. So these are certain challenges in regard to the solar modules. When we have to talk about the solar energy, then there are several other reasons also. But if we have to restrict to the solar modules, then these are the major challenges as far as India is concerned. That is why first it is regarded that we have to follow the regional approach. This we have discussed. For example, there are certain areas which have higher potential and certain other have lower potential. So the decision to install any renewable source of power must be taken on the merits and weakness of that particular region. Similarly, we must use better quality and higher efficiency silicon PV modules, for example, perovskite solar cells, because of their higher efficiency. We can develop the solar power plants in the wasteland areas. Further, we can also promote these solar power plants over the canals. Moreover, we should engage in the bilateral regional relationships with the other countries also so as to reduce our dependence over any one particular country. This topic has appeared at the text and the context page, and this topic is very important as far as the current affairs is concerned because this topic talks about a very important issue which is there in the current affairs. This topic is in relation to the recent Hindenburg report, which has led to the decline of the Adani Group and companies. Their stock prices has dramatically fall and has also attracted a lot of negative reputations. So the immediate context of this very news article is that recently, in order to dwell upon what has gone wrong in the Adani group of companies, the government said to the Supreme Court that they will form a committee, and the details of the members of those committee were given to the court in the form of a sealed envelope, to which our Chief Justice of India has refused on the grounds that it hinders the transparency and accountability of the highest judiciary. So, what all this issue is about, we are going to discuss in today's session. What exactly do we mean by sealed cover jurisprudence? What are the observations of the Chief Justice of India on this particular jurisprudence practice? What is the legal sanction behind such practice? Recent practices of the jurisprudence? What are the merits and demerits? And what are the Supreme Court observations against the sealed envelopes? So, as far as the UPSC syllabus is concerned, this topic is mainly relevant when it comes to the General Studies Mains Paper 2 in the section of Polity. So, the first question which rises is that what is sealed cover jurisprudence? Because this is the very headline of this article. So, the practice of providing any information to the judges in a sealed envelope by the government is referred as the practice of sealed cover jurisprudence. Now, it is not necessary that it will be done only by the government, but generally it is given by the government. The thing is that when any specific information dealing with a particular case is given to the court in a sealed envelope, it is known as sealed cover jurisprudence. This information is not provided to the other party in the case, and that is why this information is not made public. Now, why it is done so? In very brief, you yourself think, for example, there are certain issues of national security, let's say, or there might be certain issues which may breach the privacy of the individuals. So there might be certain instances that information dealing with such particular aspects might be detrimental for the overall country's socio-economic fabric, and that is why it might be believed that such information must not be open to the public. However, in dealing with a particular case or to help the court to come to the judgment regarding some particular case, such informations are very important. So that why these informations are provided to the judiciary only and do not come in the public domain. But in the recent case dealing with the Adani group of companies, when the government said that we will be providing the details of the members of the committee who are going to look in this particular matter in a sealed envelope, this was refuted by the Chief Justice of India. Justice Chandrachud observed that, quote, "We will not accept the sealed cover suggestions by the executive because we want to maintain the full transparency. And if we accept the suggestions in the sealed cover, it is like we have kept it away from the other side as people will think it is a government appointed committee. So, we will appoint the committee and appoint the members on our own." Unquote. This was the observation by Justice Chandrachud. And this is not for the first time that the judiciary has refuted the idea of the sealed cover information. Earlier also in the Pegasus software case, the Supreme Court turned down the information in the sealed cover and observed that government cannot expect a free pass every time under the veil of the national security. But then now the question arises that if now and then the judiciary is not accepting the sealed cover informations, then is there any legal sanction according to which the government or any party goes to the judiciary and provide the information in sealed cover? And are there any instances where the judiciary has accepted this? So yes, there is a legal sanction for such practice also. And there are two important provisions in this regard. One is the Rule 7 of Order 13th of the Supreme Court rules, which says that the Chief Justice can direct certain documents which can be in the form of letter, extract, or copy in the sealed covers, which is confidential in nature, and whose publication is not at all warranted. Similarly, Section 123 of the Indian Evidence Act states that no one shall be permitted to give any evidence derived from unpublished official records. Now, this is very important. If there is certain information which was there in the unpublished official records, we cannot allow that information to come in the public. So that is why it says, no one shall be permitted to give any evidence derived from the unpublished official records relating to any affairs of the state, except with the permission of the officer at the head of the department concerned. So these are the two important legal sanctions for such a practice. And now, because we know that this practice of sealed cover jurisprudence has the legal sanction, then obviously you must also know certain examples whereby court has accepted it also. Because whenever you have to analyze this in the form of an answer in your mains examination, then obviously you need arguments which are against this. You also need arguments which support this. So the recent practice for such jurisprudence have been, first is the Media One case. Now, obviously, you need not to go into the details of these particular cases, that what was this case was all about. You just have to quote such cases, and also not all the cases, just remember one or two names, so as to support or substantiate your argument that in certain cases court has allowed this sealed cover, and in certain other cases court has dismissed or refuted this very idea. So one example is the Media One case, whereby Ministry of Information and Broadcasting refused to renew the license of this particular media agency. And the grounds to refute this renewal of license were provided in the sealed cover, which was accepted by the Kerala High Court. The other very famous example is the Rafale aircraft case. Now we all know that this case was very sensitive. There were a lot of allegations which were posed on the government, and also this matter was of the highest national security. Therefore, a bench headed by Chief Justice Ranjan Gogoi asked the central government to submit the details related to the deal's decision making and pricing in a sealed cover. Similarly, the Bhima Koregaon case was also very important in this regard, because here also certain evidences were provided by the government in a sealed cover to the Supreme Court. And next example is of the NRC exercise. Because this exercise led to the exclusion of almost 19 lakh people from the NRC, and therefore certain informations were asked by the court from the NRC coordinator. Now this is very important. This NRC coordinator provided that information in a sealed cover, and that information was not accessible either to the government or to the affected parties. This information was there with the NRC coordinator as well as only with the Supreme Court. So now we shall understand that what are the merits and demerits of the sealed cover jurisprudence. First, we will understand that why it is generally used, or what are the merits associated with this. One, there might be cases which can breach the privacy of the individuals. So therefore, in order to protect the privacy and ensure the rights of the individuals, certain informations can be provided in the sealed cover. Similarly, the services of the administrative cases, official service records and promotional assessments of the government personnel, and avoiding the reputational harm to various officers in sensitive cases are also the logical grounds to provide information in a sealed cover. Protecting the identity of the survivors in case of sexual assault and preventing the leakage of sensitive information pertaining to the investigation into terror and money laundering cases having the aspects of national security also form the ground to provide the information in the sealed cover. So yes, there are these logical grounds available, but then these grounds must not be misused, because there are also dangerous outcomes or the demerits of this sealed cover jurisprudence practice. First and the foremost is that it violates the principles of transparency and accountability, because now the information on the basis of which the judgment was passed by the court on a specific case is not available to the general public. it is not available to the other party which is involved in the case. So, how can we ensure ourselves that the cases were judged on the basis of merits? And that is why it violates the principles of transparency as well as accountability. In line with this, it also stands in contrast to the idea of an open court where the decisions can be subject to the public scrutiny. Further, because the information is not provided to the other party also, so it impacts the rights of the accused to know the grounds on which he has been awarded certain sentence, and which in turn is a fundamental right. It is also against the fair trial and adjudication. Not providing the access to such documents to the accused parties obstructs their passage to a fair trial and adjudication. It impacts the judicial review. It also violates the principles of the natural justice, because you yourself imagine that if you come to know that the case was decided on the basis of the information which was not in the public domain, nor it was provided to the other party, don't you think that there will be a certain level of suspicion in your mind? So that is why it creates a bias against the accused, and the accused is kept in dark on the charges framed against him. Further, there are also chances that it compels the judiciary to accept the state's narrative, because we have discussed that generally the sealed cover information is provided by the state authorities only. So there can be chances that the judiciary is being compelled or its integrity is compromised. There can be certain suspicions about these practices. So that is why these are certain demerits associated with the sealed cover jurisprudence. And that is why the recent Supreme Court observations against these sealed envelopes reflect the turnaround by the judiciary. And then you must also have the examples of the cases whereby through which you can substantiate your argument. One is the INX Media case. Supreme Court, while granting the bail to P. Chidambaram, criticized Delhi High Court's decision to merely rely on the documents submitted by the ED in a sealed cover. The second case was related to the criminal appeal filed against the Bihar government, whereby Chief Justice of India Justice N.V. Ramana did not approve admitting the information in a sealed cover by Bihar government. The latest example can be of the Adani Group. We have also discussed the Supreme Court observation in the Pegasus case, whereby it said that free pass every time cannot be granted to the government under the veil of national security. Similarly, the Supreme Court admonished the Bihar government for attempting to give information in sealed cover in Muzaffarpur shelter case. So these were certain cases whereby Supreme Court has gone against the sealed cover jurisprudence. And these were the cases whereby it has accepted the sealed cover information. So this was this session all about the sealed cover jurisprudence, and this will help you to write beautiful answers in your mains examination if the question comes. Now moving on to our third topic. The topic reads Fighting Seismic Threats in Kashmir, the Mughal Style. The immediate context of this very topic is the recently deadly earthquake which has taken place in Turkey. However, the questions have raised on the modern architectural design styles of the houses and the hotels and other infrastructure. So, in this regard, certain answers can also be found from the traditional architectural designs. And one of those designs is known as Uroosi architecture. So, there are certain key facts related to the Uroosi architecture. These key facts are relevant from the prelims examinations perspective. So, that is why this topic is going to be very brief. Many a time the question occurs in prelims examination related to certain key terminologies from the ancient or the medieval era. So that is why one such terminology is the Uroosi architecture. This is basically the architectural style of the Mughal era, and that is the importance of this very style. This specific style is mostly found in Jammu and Kashmir, and there are two key important attributes to this style. One is that they are very light. Second, they are earthquake resistant. So now we shall understand that what is that specific quality of this architectural style which makes them light as well as prone to the earthquake shocks. They are basically the wooden structures. They are the wooden shutters which are used to partition the walls. Let us understand this. For example, there are two rooms, room A and room B. Now, presently, you imagine in your own houses also, both these rooms have a partition wall which is made out of concrete. So, under this Uroosi architectural style, these partition walls were not made up of concrete or such heavy material, but these partition walls were made out of the wooden structure. These were in the form of wooden shutters. So, when you have to combine this room A and B, you can just lift up the shutters. There will be no partition remaining, and there will be one large room. When you have to partition this very room and you have to make two rooms out of one room, you can roll down the shutter from the hanging grooves in the ceiling chambers to have this particular partition and divide the space into two or three halves as you like. So now, because the structure is not made up of concrete, rather they are made up of wood, that is why it is light. And because it is light, it reduces the overall load of the buildings. And therefore they become handy and are better when they are hit by the earthquake waves. So remember this fact that Uroosi architectural style is of the Mughal era, and they are the wooden shutters used as partition walls which are light and resistant to the earthquake. Now we shall have a look at a reference article. This topic, the curious case of the disqualification of a politician, has appeared in today's The Hindu Daily edition at page number 8 as a lead article. This article talks about the disqualification of politicians. So now this is a reference article because if you people want to understand the process of disqualification of various legislators as per our constitution, as per RPA or as per different other acts, you are requested to go back to the DNS dated 3rd November 2022 where I have covered all the important dimensions associated with the disqualification of membership. For example, under RPA, there is Section 8, which deals with the disqualification for various criminal offences. Similarly, under Section 8A, disqualification is dealt on the grounds of corrupt practices. So go to the DNS dated 3rd November 2022. That is all for today. All the very best and study hard.